How long can he go on? Eamonn Holmes delivers scathing takedown of Keir Starmer's migrant deal. More than 1,200 migrants have crossed the Channel since the deal with France was signed on Thursday. Eamonn Holmes has delivered his scathing verdict on Sir Keir Starmer's migrant deal with France. Delivering his verdict on the UK's migrant exchange deal, the People's Channel host hit out at the agreement, declaring that it isn't going to fix the problem. The deal, confirmed following French President Emmanuel Macron's 3-day state visit to Britain, will see approximately 50 illegal migrants a week return to France in exchange for legitimate asylum seekers. Discussing the deal, Eamonn declared that not a lot of people will disagree with those doubting the agreement. Eamonn told GB News, more than 1,200 migrants crossed the Channel since that deal was signed on Thursday. Starmer's popularity is lower than Boris Johnson's ever was. How long can he go on? How long can he go on with this? Revealing what disgusts him about Starmer following Macron's state visit, Eamonn fumed, "This is what disgusts me with Starmer. I believe it's all about the stage with him, it's all about the show. It's all about hugging, which I can't stand, him hugging Macron. It's all about a global image rather than fixing the problem." Defending Starmer's latest move to tackle the migrant crisis, political commentator John Oxley responded, "To be fair to Starmer, there are moves in there that are going towards fixing the problem. The scale of the problem is just huge. But what we've seen over the last 5 or 10 years is this has been bubbling up, repeated governments have failed to do anything to stem the increases in migrants. The only thing that seems to change it is how good the weather across the Channel is." He added, "And so all of these deals, the problem is you need some cooperation. But anything you can do is so small compared with the numbers that are coming across. And ultimately, the position is the French don't want these people sat around on their beaches, they have every incentive to let them get across to become our problem." Disagreeing with Oxley, host Anne Diamond claimed Britain is being gaslit into believing that the French are making a difference to Channel crossings. Anne said, "It's like we're being gaslit, we're being told that we've done this deal with France and it's going to make a difference, and we've been paying them all this money. We see one little sequence of them stabbing a boat to deflate it, and we're expected to believe that there's making a difference. Nothing seems to be making a difference." Oxley explained, "The real test for this will be how quickly these removals back to France start happening, whether they start happening when they start happening. And if that has any sort of deterrent effect on the boats coming across. The difference with this deal compared with what's happened in the past is it's opening this idea of safe routes. So people with legitimate claims can stay in France, they don't have to get on a boat, and they can make an application which should allow us, although it doesn't really help with the numbers, it does allow us at least more scrutiny over who's coming across." GB News Eamonn Holmes annihilates Keir Starmer in crushing 5-word statement. GB News presenter Eamonn Holmes issued a damning verdict on the Prime Minister's future on this morning's show. During today's GB News, journalist Clare Muldoon and host Eamonn Holmes debated whether Sir Keir Starmer's hands are tied regarding Chancellor Rachel Reeves and whether she could get the boot in a potential cabinet reshuffle. Muldoon began, "Reeves has said she is going to freeze income tax levels beyond the 2028 threshold, which, of course, will cause physical drag, and more people, including pensioners, will be put into a higher tax bracket. While they say they are not going to raise taxes, they will, they are, mark my words. And it will be via stealth." She then asked Holmes if Reeves was to be removed from the cabinet, it would be seen almost as a personal attack because she had cried during Prime Minister's questions in the House of Commons in recent weeks. Reeves was visibly upset while sitting close to Starmer during Prime Minister's questions, and her team issued a statement saying, "It's a personal matter, which, as you would expect, we are not going to get into. The Chancellor will be working out of Downing Street this afternoon. Do you think Starmer's hands are tied?" Muldoon asked. Holmes bluntly responded, "Oh, I will tell you what. If Starmer is tied to Rachel Reeves, and if Rachel Reeves goes, then he has to go as well, I think. That means Rachel Reeves will stay no matter what happens." Muldoon added, "I don't think she's fit for purpose." Viewers flocked to the comments section following the debate, with one penning on X, "Sounds like a game of musical chairs, and I'm not convinced Reeves has a seat to stay in for long. Better hope the Labour lads know what they're doing. Sometimes it's better to have a plan B than keep sticking with the same old." Another fumed, "They're both a national embarrassment." A third wrote, "None of them are fit to serve this country." Eamonn Holmes sends chilling warning to Keir Starmer as Rachel Reeves mulls stealth tax raid. The GB News star laid bare his frustration. Eamonn Holmes has suggested the Prime Minister's political future is inextricably linked to his Chancellor in a shock prediction on GB News. Starmer is tied to Rachel Reeves. If Rachel Reeves goes, he will have to go as well, I think, which is why I think she will stay, Eamonn said on the People's Channel. Eamonn expressed frustration with the government's rhetoric, stating, "It really annoys me when they talk about hardworking people as if people who earn a lot of money aren't hardworking." Panelist Clare Muldoon joined the criticism, predicting that despite government denials, tax increases are inevitable. "They say they aren't raising taxes, but they are. They will, mark my words," Muldoon warned viewers. Muldoon outlined how the government plans to implement tax increases without explicitly raising rates. "It will be by stealth. The way they are doing it is by freezing income tax levels beyond the 2028 threshold," she explained. The broadcaster warned that this approach would have widespread consequences through fiscal drag. "That will give rise to fiscal drag and more people, including pensioners, will be put into a higher tax bracket," Muldoon said. Her comments come as Labour faces mounting pressure over its economic strategy, with ministers repeatedly refusing to rule out various forms of tax increases. The freeze on income tax thresholds means that as wages and pensions rise with inflation, more people automatically move into higher tax bands without any change to the tax rates themselves. Ministers have continued to dodge questions about potential tax rises, with Transport Secretary Heidi Alexander refusing to rule out new levies yesterday. Alexander confirmed that cabinet ministers discussed fiscal matters during an away day at Chequers on Friday, though she claimed they did not, directly, discuss a wealth tax. When pressed on autumn tax rises, she declined to speculate but stated, "When it comes to taxation, fairness is going to be our guiding principle." The Transport Secretary reiterated the government's manifesto pledge, saying, "We made a commitment in our manifesto not to be putting up taxes on people on modest incomes, working people. We have stuck to that." Her careful wording notably referred only to those on modest incomes, potentially opening the door to tax increases on middle-class earners. Labour's manifesto promised not to increase taxes on working people, including national insurance, income tax or VAT, but the definition of this term has remained contentious since the election. The Chancellor has notably refused to rule out tax rises at the budget following the government's reversal on welfare reforms that would have saved £5 billion. The Office for Budget Responsibility warned last week that UK state finances are on an unsustainable path due to spending commitments the government cannot afford long-term. Reeves faces pressure from Labour MPs and unions to introduce a wealth tax to balance the books. Some quarters have suggested she could also increase business rates for department stores and supermarkets to raise £1.7 billion. Shadow Chancellor Mel Stride claimed Labour is sending investors running because they know tax rises are coming.